She predicted his death every single morning. And every single morning, Prince Kael walked through her door anyway. "Tuesday," Thessaly said, without looking up from the silver bowl of ink-black water between her hands. Her fingers were stained to the wrist. They always were. The visions came whether she invited them or not. "You die on a Tuesday. Sword through the left side. Someone you trust." "You told me Monday last week." The future is revising itself. She finally looked at him. Her eyes, when the sight was on her, were the color of a wound, which should considerably more than it seems to. Kael pulled up a chair, sat backwards on it, and smiled the smile that had reportedly destabilized 3 foreign courts. "Or," he said, "it means I have time." She stared at him. "How much time?" he asked. Thessaly looked back into the water. The ink swirled into shapes she didn't want to read. His face, always his face, lit golden in some visions and ash gray in others. "Not enough," she said quietly. "Never enough."
She had been the crown's oracle since she was 14, collared to the throne by the sight binding, a chain of old magic that meant she could not refuse a royal's question and could not lie in her answering. The collar wasn't visible. It never was. It lived somewhere behind her sternum, a constant low ache she'd learned to breathe around. Kael had never once asked her a direct question she didn't volunteer herself. She'd noticed. She tried not to notice. She'd noticed anyway. The external threat arrived in the form of his betrothal, a political arrangement to the Duchess of Vel Anarath, whose family controlled the eastern water routes, and less publicly, a private army of sight killers, assassins specifically trained to hunt and eliminate oracles before they could warn the courts they served. "Someone wants the throne blind," Thessaly had told him. "Someone wants me specifically blind," he'd corrected. "There's a difference." He'd started sleeping outside her chamber door after that. She told him it was unnecessary. He'd said, "Humor me. You're a prince. I'm not in the habit of humoring you. You are the only person in this palace who isn't." A pause, his voice lower. "I find it remarkable. I thought you should know." She'd spent the next 3 hours staring at the ceiling, which was deeply inconvenient. The visions were changing too. Less death, more something she had no adequate word for. Kael's hands in hers. His voice saying her name without the formal intonation everyone else used, like it was something he'd chosen rather than been assigned. She stopped recording those in her official journals. Some things felt too much like hope to be cataloged. The sight binding could be broken. She found it in the deep archive, a handwritten addendum in the original binding covenant, 200 years old, ink so faded she had to hold a candle to it. The chain dissolves upon the willing death of the oracle, or upon... The next word had been deliberately scratched out. Someone had known. Someone had always known there was another way to free her, and they had removed it. She brought it to Kael at midnight. Watched him read it twice, jaw tightening. Watched him look up at her with an expression that cracked something open in the room. "Someone in my family did this," he said. "Yes. To keep you owned." She said it plainly, because she'd had years to make peace with plain things. "Yes." He set the document down very carefully, like it might catch fire. "I'm going to find the missing word," he said. Not a question, not a royal command, just a promise, made to her specifically, in the quiet dark. She believed him. That was the most dangerous thing she'd ever done. The Duchess's sight killers came on a Tuesday. Thessaly saw them 40 seconds before they breached the wards. 40 seconds of screaming the alarm. It also, she had just discovered, meant she could push a vision outward like a weapon.
She hadn't known she could do that. Neither had the first sight killer, who walked directly into a projected vision of his own worst memory and crumpled. Kael handled the remaining 3 with a ruthless efficiency that reminded her he had not, in fact, survived 3 attempted coups on charm alone. When it was over, he was bleeding from his left side. Her breath stopped. "It's shallow," he said immediately, reading her face. "Thessaly, look at me, it's shallow." She pressed her hand over the wound and looked into the water vision that always lived behind her eyes, and saw, for the first time in 4 years, no version of his death at all. "The prediction is gone," she said. He covered her hand with his. "Then we have time," he said. "Like I told you."
The Duchess's alliance collapsed within a fortnight. The sight killers, without their patron's protection, scattered. Kael dissolved the betrothal formally, publicly, and with a speech his advisors described as diplomatically catastrophic, and that Thessaly, privately, found perfect. He brought her the full covenant the following week, the original, excavated from a locked vault his grandmother had sealed. The missing word, restored, read love. She read it 3 times. "Willing death," she said slowly. Or, "Yes," he said. She looked up. "I've been aware," he added, "for quite some time." The binding loosened that night. Not gone, not yet, but changed, like something preparing to release. And Thessaly, who had spent a decade watching futures unspool in black water, looked into the bowl one final time and saw something she had no framework for. A crown. Not Kael's crown, not any crown she recognized. And beside it, her own hands, unstained, reaching for it. She didn't tell him, not yet. Some futures, she was learning, deserved to arrive on their own terms.